Good morning, good evening, guys. This is the some of the videos from the Sarthi Foundation for DevOps training. So we provide DevOps, AWS, Azure, machine learning, and Python training. So I did this. Let me create some videos on DevOps so that people can get trained on that. This foundation is basically designed to help those people who are in career transitions. It's not people who are already trained, highly trained, but they can also view these videos. But this DevOps training, why the DevOps is so much popular nowadays? People who are from the different disciplines, they're also looking to explore the career options in DevOps. So we will discuss all those things in this training. And this training will be a part of multiple small videos in which I am going to discuss the details about each and every part of the DevOps. There are so many parts which are integrated with each other. So when you say DevOps is a culture. It's a culture of a two domain, or you can say two world. The one is development world, and the other one is the operational world. So why these two worlds are talking to each other nowadays, wherever they're not talking earlier? See, the thing is, the simple answer for this question is, you know, over a period of time, things are getting integrated, especially the cloud, the mania, the cloud. In the cloud environment, you have so many things. So storage, networking, applications on a single, in the single dashboard. So that's integration is the key, and faster delivery. The for any application, right from the coding to the release or deployment, it's not, it should not take much time. We spend a lot of time on that. So that's challenge we faced earlier, those challenge, and then the DevOps is somewhat the you can say the solution for that one. So introduction, this training is all about to train you, to give you the different tools and techniques so that you can use it in your environment and at least learn it. Even though if you're not using on your environment, it's better to learn those skill sets and those tools, because you never know that in the new environment, whether it's existing or you change the company, then you get a new environment. Especially people who are coming from non-cloud background, suddenly they move to a company where everything is in cloud. So this training, we will discuss the introduction of DevOps, that is both in AWS and in non-cloud. Means non-cloud means on-prem. And the second one is, then we'll start with the Git and Jenkins stuff. Then we'll see that the continuous integration, continuous deployment with the Docker, the networking with the Docker ecosystem, configuration management, introduction to Kubernetes, and introduction to Nagios. I know these are all new terms. These buzzing words are very new to you, so don't worry about that. We'll go each and everything in details in the coming section. So when you say DevOps tools, so for every section of the DevOps, means whether you are talking about coding, or you're talking about build, or you're talking about the release or testing or the deployment, everywhere they use different tools. But this is all about on-prem thing. When it comes to the AWS or Azure, you have a certain services that is taking care of the individual, the integration part, or the delivery part. So there are two parts. One is the integration, and one is the delivery. So when we say continuous delivery and continuous integration, that's why we call it CI/CD pipeline. We'll talk about that. So the first thing is managing and tracking the changes. If the code is there, and you modify the code, and you are keep modifying the code for next 6 months, and suddenly you realize that, okay, I need to have my original code in my hand. So in that point of view, this tracking, this version management, so if you change the file, you get the new version of your of the file. So that, from that point of view, Git is there. So all these are basic things that we are going to cover right now, but slowly we'll go ahead with more advanced options, and we have some projects also. So people who knows those things, they can get the, they can try their the knowledge and skills by working on the live project. I mean, some of the projects we have 10 to 15 projects are there in which they can apply their skill set. So let's talk about the next part, that is a Jenkins. Jenkins is very important part of your DevOps thing, because Jenkins holds so many integration and so many plugins to connect your different DevOps tools and techniques and different DevOps parts basically. So incremental build are difficult to manage, test, and deploy. So why we need Jenkins? Git, we know that we need a version management to modify. If somebody modified the file 10 times in a day, then I need to know what modification they have done, and if any case you want to revert it, then you should be able to revert. So Git is for that. So you create your repositories, you modify the code, and then you can save the code, and then you upload the code. But still, I mean, at any moment of time, your original code and your changes are still there. So nobody can say that, oh, I don't have a backup and that's why I lost my code. So Git will take care of that. So now then let's talk about the Jenkins thing. Jenkins, it's more like your build tool plus the integration tool. Jenkins, I would say it's an integration. It's not only the build tool, but it will connect the dots in a sense, connect the integration as well as the delivery. Now, you can ask me one question, that what do you mean by this continuous integration and continuous delivery? And what do you mean by integration? So the flow is something, if you want to understand the flow, the first is you start with the coding. And the code will, when you write the code, the coding people, the developer will write the code and, save the code in their Git repository. And the second step is this: through Jenkins, you can start building it. So for building, you have a separate tool like Maven, like Gradle, like Ant. These are the different tools that you use to build it. Once you're done with the build, the third step is just testing. So Selenium is a tool for testing, although there are other tools also for testing. So Selenium is a part of its testing, and then the Ansible and the Puppet is for your configuration management. Once you're done with the testing, means your software is ready. So that's called artifacts. And once your software is ready to deploy, Ansible Puppet will help you to deploy that software on multiple servers. And that servers can be your VM, can be your Docker system, or can be your virtual machines, EC2 instances, or Azure VMs. So that is in short, in the nutshell, how we connect the solution of DevOps. So you create the developer will generate the code. Jenkins will make sure that those codes get ready with the build. So build will use that code and build the artifacts, and from their artifacts, Jenkins will do the CI/CD pipeline, the delivery pipeline. So after the delivery, you will do the testing, and after the testing, you can do the deploy. The Ansible and Puppets for deploy, and where to deploy in the Docker or your VMC. So these are all some challenges that we will be discussing in our training. I'm going to create more videos on each and every topic, like especially the Git and the Jenkins and other things. So the operational challenges, as I said earlier, this DevOps is a culture of basically the two cultures are meeting with each other. One is a development culture and one is operation culture. So ops culture is difficult to maintain uptime of the production. There are some ops challenges also. The operational people who come from operation side to build the servers, to maintain the servers, maintain the uptime, maintain the patches. Those are all the ops people, the operational people. So they have their own challenges, and there are subsequent DevOps solution for that. Those are the things we will discuss in greater details in our training. So number of servers to monitor, difficult to diagnose, to provide and feedback to the product. First of all, automate to deploy, some packages on thousands of servers, how to deploy it. We need to use Ansible and Puppet and those respective tools for that. So this is the basic definition of DevOps. Why I'm taking more time to explain this DevOps thing, because many people say I'm not from the development background. In the DevOps thing, many people are from the non-IT background, and they want to learn this DevOps thing, and they need to learn. They used to ask this question that, okay, if I'm not from the development background, then what are the things I need to learn? Whether I need to learn programming, I don't know anything about Java or Node.js or any other particular language. So the answer is very simple. You don't need to learn any language to learn the DevOps. Although if you are learning a language, it's always a good thing. So for DevOps, as a DevOps engineer, you don't need to learn any coding language, especially the Java or other thing. But yes, DevOps, for CI/CD pipeline, to build the pipeline, you need to have a certain understanding of about two languages. That is mainly the Groovy script, and one is a YAML file. We'll talk about that in details in our consequent coming sessions. So what is the DevOps? DevOps is not a goal. It's a never-ending process. It's a continuous improvement process. It's a culture. It's a two cultures are meeting with each other: the developmental culture and operational culture. So this DevOps journey is something like you start with the cultural transformation. The development people, or developers are talking to the operational guys, and they are working together to deliver the product or the change or the software. So the first thing is the cultural transformation, then the process transformation. There are so many processes. We need to rebuild the process. You cannot say that this is not my cup of tea. So DevOps culture means the operational guys also know the development side, and the developer side also knows the operational side, even though they are not expert in that. But as a DevOps engineer, you need to have a deep understanding about that. And then the technology transformation, then automate everything and adopt the tools. So it's a 5-step journey for you to adopt the DevOps culture. So DevOps adoption. As a DevOps engineer, if you want to start your career as an engineer, you need to first see the cultural transformation, and then the process transformation, then the technological transformation. So we are here, process and the technology transformation, where we will help you to understand different the tools and techniques that we use in DevOps. And don't worry about that, whether it's a cloud, whether it's a AWS, whether it's Azure. Well, we'll take up both the things. So don't worry about that. And we'll give you some project work also, so that you will scratch your head and try to solve that project and try to finish that project. Basically, it's a tough project. So almost 10-15 projects we'll be working, and we'll give you some project work after every module. So Agile versus Waterfall versus DevOps. So this is all like we started our journey with the Waterfall, and you know that Waterfall, Agile with the continuous deploy requires DevOps. So the Agile, it started with the Waterfall model, where coding takes a lot of time. First is a design phase, and coding, then testing and deploy. And if something goes wrong after the deploy, then everything starts from the design thing again, and it takes almost a year to come to this deployment stage. So Agile is a bit better than your the Waterfall model, where you have design, code, test. Again, the frequent the checking, the frequent or testing of your code. In case you have any issues, then again you can go to the design stage and do the coding again and testing again. But the frequent intervals matters a lot. So Agile with the continuous deployment is something to give more testing and more integration and deployment to your product, so that by the time it will go to the customer, it will be more stable. So you can say that version 1 is not that stable, but version 6 is stable, because version 1, from version 1 to version 6, it won't take more than a day. That's how this fast deployment is there. So ultimately, we are doing the same thing. The job is same what we are doing in a waterfall model, but we are doing it very smartly here. We don't want to wait the customer for 1 year. Instead of that, 1 day or 2 days more than enough to see the product, product of the deployment, so that customer can say, yeah, it's okay, or it's not okay, or something like that. If any feedback comes, then you can again design, code, test, and deploy. It's so frequent deployment is there, so you will get multiple versions, and every version will have a better than the previous one. So the continuous improvement is also there. So there are so many continuous integrations, and continuous deployment, and continuous improvement, and continuous monitoring also. So everything is continuous here. So it's ends here, then again starts with the continuous. So that's a continuity here. There is no end, and that's why it is called a CI/CD pipeline. So this is waterfall model, then the DevOps model. What the architecture point of view, it's a monolithic waterfall. We all know, people who are very new to this world, IT world, they don't know the waterfall model. 10 15 years back, these were the software strategies and software development strategies companies were using it. And then the agile thing came. This is a starting of your new thought and new innovation, and then the DevOps thing comes. And we'll talk with details in the microservices. What do you mean by this microservices? What do you mean by container? And what do you mean by cloud? I think the high level definition is something like, it's a bunch of services which you are not going to create, but it is already created for you. So they have different cloud adoption technique, whether you want to go with the infrastructure as a service, or platform as a service, or software as a service. And it depends on your requirement. And obviously the cloud model it's very specific about your budget also. The containers and microservices. Containers, basically, why so many people are talking about Docker container? There's a reason for that, because we know that VMs are a bit expensive, because uh, the storage, the memory, the CPU that one VM is holding and consuming it, as compared to Docker is very efficient resource utilization. You can say that Docker is using 70 to 80% better than your VM, because VM is it's not a continuous resource consumer. So sometimes you have a VM 10 GB of RAM or 15 GB of RAM, but you're using it for 3 hours or 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time it's idle. So VM is the usage of the resources is not that efficient as compared to the container. So container is very lightweight. The second thing is, most important thing is a lightweight thing. You can move the container from one place to another place. And the third thing is the ecosystem. The containers has their own ecosystem. So if you deploy something here, then the same thing you can deploy everywhere. There's no the driver issues or compatibility issues are not there. And the services, the application that we deploy inside the container, they are called as microservices. So microservices is something that whatever the deployment you do on your container side is known as a microservices. We'll talk about that in details. So what are the skills that you need to be a DevOps engineer? Well, Git is a general thing. Git is, you have to have a Git, then the Jenkins, Docker, Puppet, Ansible, and Negus. So these are the tools that you need. Then you have to have some networking skills also. Not a CCNA or the Cisco level thing, but yes, the simple how to manage the port forwarding, container orchestration, and those things. And the other thing is the cloud awareness. Better you understand something cloud related to services, like for example AWS, DevOps services, and the process, how thing works in the AWS thing. So the coding part, when you see the coding part, you use these are the tools, coding tools that you can use. You can use Eclipse, you can use npm, you can use Jira, you can use the Subversion and Git. The dominants are Eclipse and Git. The second stage of DevOps cycle, where the developers write their code. This is the stage where they write the code, right? And they write the code and they will keep the code in the Git repository. As I said earlier, Git is the integral part of a DevOps thing because it's a version management. But along with the version management, it takes care of the coding part also. So your developer will write the code with the Eclipse, with the IDE, and then they will store the code in their the repository. So once the code gets stored in the repository, then this coding team will store the code, the Java code, in the repository, and that repository will be controlled by the Git, so that if any changes comes to the code, then can have a different version of code. That's a part one. That's the first part of your DevOps lifecycle. That's called coding part. And here there's the build part. So first the coding and the build part. Build part means you can say that code is gonna compile the code and build some artifacts. So that can be done through Gradle, through Maven, through Apache and use through Docker and Kubernetes also. So these are the building tools. Especially if you're talking about the Java thing, then Maven is a leader. So build can be anything. Build can be C++, build can be Java, build can be Python, build can be anything, any language that you can use it to build your artifacts. So the build is a pre-release version and is identified as the build number rather than the release number. So this is the build part where you're using the repositories of the code that you build in the first step, and then you're building something like artifacts or software. Then we have a testing. Now, what do you mean by this testing team? The testing is something, once you're done with the build, then you need to do the testing before you go to release. So testing, JMeter and Selenium, they are and JUnit also, they use these tools to testing. But actually what we do in testing, so there is when you build any software, the testing team, they are aware of what's the exact requirement from the software, and they will set those requirements and they will test those software against those requirements. So let's say the drop down menu should come from this point, then they will check whether the drop down menu is coming or not. Right, so those things are testing. Let's say I have written the paper, I'm done with my paper, then somebody will test it. When somebody will test it against some standard, like against some answer sheet, something. So testing is a part of that, the process of executing automatic testing as a part of a software delivery pipeline in order to obtain the feedback on the business risk associated with the software release. So anything failed in the testing, that will again go to the coding people, the developer, and then they will modify the code, and then they will release it again. And this is the release thing. We have a release tools. Jenkins is a dominant tool to release, although Jenkins is used for CI, CD, both thing. Bamboo is again the release team. GitLab is against the which a very famous release tools are there. So this phase helps to integrate the code into the shared repository, using which you can detect and locate errors quickly and easily. So you are releasing the code, you're releasing the artifact with the help of these tools. And after the release, you will deploy it. So release is basically to give you a sense that okay, we have this release, this 4.0 release or 5 release or 6 release. So that will give the number to that release. Maybe that is not a final one, but yes, that's a number. The version number, the release version, the release number kind of thing. And then the deployment, you have once the release is done, then you have the software ready to deploy. And these are all Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Amazon. They have their own tool to deploy the software, so that we can use it. And then the operate thing. So operate can be, operation and monitoring is the same, with some difference about how you deploy the things and how you monitor the things. While monitoring, you have certain checkpoint that you use to monitor the environment, whether the environment is running as per the expectation or not. So this is the introduction of the DevOps, and I hope you like the video. If you really love the video, then please follow my or subscribe my channel. I will keep on adding the new videos about AWS or Azure, and other the DevOps videos that will help to work in your actual environment. We provide support also. So in case if you face an issue while working, then these videos and the support can help you in that.